I've actually found something out about myself in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
All right.
I'm actually a fanboy.
You are? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's like I tell you guys, hey, 10 minutes for the interview. That's all I'm going to do. And then all of a sudden it's been 30 minutes, and I'm like, I'm sorry I get off here, but I want to stay on. Like, I want to keep talking because I'm trying to find out more stuff about you because I actually care. I don't care about who watches the video later. I'm trying to find out now. So it was like a really like a, oh God, I'm a fanboy. Like
I mean, you could call it a fanboy, but also you call it a fanboy because you don't give yourself enough credit. I look at you and say, man, you're one of the pioneers of the sport, one of the greatest minds in the sport, and you just love the sport. Therefore, you love to talk about the sport that you love, and you love to talk about other people that compete at a high level just like you did, you know? So you call it fanboy. I just call it being one of the guys at the top of the heap when it comes to knowing what's up with the game, you know?
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I still feel like a fanboy.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure, like, someday when I'm in your shoes and I do these kinds of things, I'm probably going to feel the same way. So I'm trying to talk my future self out of not feeling like a fanboy right now.
Good. And do it, because it's a weird feeling, and you kind of like, ooh, I gotta call this guy, but I'm be all giddy and stuff when I talk to him on the phone.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There a big announcement came out today from Bellator. John McCarthy is now retired from MMA, and he's now in the Bellator commentating booth. This is the big thing that popped today. His first show is January 20th.
Wow, I am literally just hearing this right now. I think Big John McCarthy is one of the greatest guys in the sport. I'm actually like, it's funny because like as soon as you said that, my heart sank because I love sharing the cage with John McCarthy. You know, like my last fight, if John McCarthy was in the cage,
yeah,
he would have remembered that conversation I had with him in the locker room when I said, John, whatever you do not stop this fight until a bone is sticking out, until I'm unconscious, until I literally look at you and wave the white flag. You know, so you look at guys like that, and I'm like, man, if that was my ref, my last fight, things would have been differently, or could have been differently. You know, so he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Hope he doesn't hang up the referee gloves or shoes for good. But that's
cool. No,
man.
He's been. I'm gonna pull back the curtain a little bit. He's been talking about slowing down for 2 years, man. And then at the end of last year, he had a second neck surgery, and he was like, it's pretty close to being, because the problem is that he feels like I've asked him, hey, what was your best, and I said this on Ariel Helwani's show, what is your best fight? Because I'm going to look at it so I can mimic that perfect style of refereeing. He's like, yeah, I don't have one. And I was like, oh, you're just being modest, whatever. He's like, no, in every single fight I can tell you there's something I need to improve on. Like, there's something I need to get better at. And so he feels like he's getting to the point where he can't get in there now and keep fighter safety because he's slowing down. He has to watch his head when he jumps in there. He has to be very careful when he does certain motions and certain movements. He's like, if somebody gets caught in a particular position, I can't get them out of that spot if their opponent won't let go, and that's not good for the fighter. So he's like, it's time for me to step down. I'm not saying that's his reasoning, but we've had that conversation before. When it gets to that point, that's what he's going to do. I'm not surprised at all. You know, he's been doing it for a long time. He wanted to slow down, and now it's time for him to move into the commentating booth. And unfortunately, that's one more job commentating that I can't get because he's a way better commentator than I am.
But now you can come in and become Frank Trigg, the referee, man.
We'll see. Cool. We'll see what happens on the 20th. What they do with me. Yeah. So you've noticed that whenever I ref, I'm on the undercard. I'm on the early fights, which is where I belong. My experience level puts me down below. It's all about experience, you know.
Yeah, it's cool that, you know, just like anything, and it's cool that you're humble enough to show up and not expect to be in the main event. Like, people need to realize that they need to freaking be in the valleys. It doesn't matter who you are. If you go into a new avenue of life, you need to be in the valley. You need to be down in the muck, in the suck, and climb your way up to where you need to be. So that's cool that you have humble enough being.
Well, the good news is that for the guys that are money hungry, money oriented, this job is not for you. There's no money in it, being a referee. Yeah. But if you go into it with, hey, I'm really here. I'm not here to be, like, I kept it quiet for 4 years. And I'll get to my point here in a second for how it relates to you. One of the things that happens in California State Athletic Commission is that all the refs get paid the same amount of money. The only differences are if you have a title fight that's on pay-per-view, you get paid a little bit more than the rest of the refs that night. And if you're on the pay-per-view card. So, like, if I'm on the undercard that's on Fox Sports 1 or on Spike.com, then I get paid less than than what I would get if I was on the TV portion versus what I get paid if it's on a pay-per-view portion. That's just how it's the hierarchy. But it's very minimal. It's a very minimum number. So we don't fight. The refs don't fight. If McCarthy gets the main event, I don't care. He deserves it, and the pay is the same, so it doesn't matter. There's no like, oh my gosh, no, he don't deserve it. He deserves to be in there. The most effective referee needs to be in that position. That's where he is. How much would it change MMA if everybody across the board got paid the same amount of money? There was no difference. The only difference you got was sponsorship dollars because you were the champ, and you got more money that way. So you would make more money, but you'd be outside the sport. Your pay was exactly the same. You get more on viewership. You get more on pay-per-view buys if there's a pay-per-view model. But every fighter walks in the door and gets $500,000, and that's it. Everyone gets $500,000, win, lose, or draw. You walk away with $500,000 every time you fight, and you make the rest of your money off of sponsors. Do you think that model would work in MMA?
If that number was high enough, if that number was high enough. But the problem is you got the guys and gals who are very, very happy with what they're making, which might only be, this much. And then you got the rest of the people who are not very happy with what they're making. But I've always been the kind of guy, man, I'm sorry, man. There are different levels to every single occupation. There are different levels to being a human. There are different levels to what the time that you've put in, the sacrifices you've made, the decisions that you've made to get to where you are. And I've always prided myself on being somebody who separates himself from the pack. So I deserve to make great money, way better money than Joe Schmo, who's been, dinking off for the last 10 years and has done decent fighting, but hasn't really done that well. But I've been pouring my heart and soul into it, leaving my family and making these sacrifices and putting the right things in my body and staying away from the right things and making all the sacrifices to make sure my body and my mind is a well-oiled machine. So I don't like that kind of, I like the capitalistic mentality of the way MMA is right now. I don't want that communist kind of like, oh, we all get the same, so I would actually hate that because I don't want to look at this guy and say, oh, I'm making the same as him. I would love to stand next to John Jones or whoever or Conor McGregor and be like, man, you know what? That's cool. You're making a lot more money than me. That's cool. But I would hate it if the dudes I've been training with and I heard about what they did the night before and they come into training all freaking sleepies in their eyes and their hair all jacked up and I'm well rested because I made the right decisions.
Yeah.
And I look at you and we made the same amount of money the next fight. Nah, I'm not about that.
Well, doesn't it come down to winning and losing? I mean, if you at least the American model, the North American model is the more you win, the more you get. I mean, let's be honest. GSP in his heyday, he was crushing everybody, but ultimately was not a very exciting fighter to watch. But he beat everybody fair and square, very cleanly. But it was a very not exciting style of winning fights. But he won, and he kept getting more and more money because he kept winning. So isn't it really just about wins and losses at the end of the day, as far as your popularity goes?
Well, I mean, these days, yes and no. I mean, there's so many people who have done extremely well just because they're very good marketing machines. They're very good at what they've done, and it's an ebb and flow. You look at Conor; he came in, he wasn't as good as he thought he was, but he was way better than everybody else thought he was. He didn't get any credit because he was fed 2 135-pounders. He was given the Mac Mansion and Bentleys and Rolls Royces and this and that by the Fertittas and all that kind of stuff. But then he backed it up by beating everybody pretty darn bad, So it's interesting, man. And we've all taken a page out of his book. We've all taken a page out of some of these guys, the Chael Sonnens, and realize you got to use your mouth just as much as your fists if you want to make a decent living in this sport.
So you've had a pretty back and forth argument. Was it Will Brooks? Is that who was kind of going back and forth with you for a while before he shifted?
Yeah.
So he talked of that noise, left, didn't do very good, but still, he's kind of one of those guys that surprised me. I thought in defeat he'd be like a little more in his face. I think he kind of got mamaed a little bit. Like his mom was like, "You got to slow down a little bit and realize you got beat and try to figure it out." Because he's kind of humble in his losses. Now that you've seen him lose, do you see him as a different fighter? Do you see him as a little bit different, or you think he's still the same cocky kid that you guys didn't get along with?
I haven't seen his interviews. I haven't seen a lot of that stuff. I've seen the fights. I think I've watched one of his fights live, but a lot of them I just look at the highlights, whether he won or lost or whatnot. So I haven't really followed him a ton, but I mean, man, losses will do that to you. I had three losses in a row, 2 of which were to him when I was in not a good place in my life mentally as far as my career goes. I had everything outside the cage I needed, but mentally, my training, my mentality, my confidence, that kind of stuff was suffering at that point. compared to where I am now. Man, if I step into the cage right now with the 3 guys that have beat me, the last guy didn't really count because it was an injury, but the other 2, Eddie Alvarez and Will Brooks, if I step into the cage with either one of them right now or on January 20th, I beat him within 2 rounds and finish him. Like, and that's just the crazy thing about where your mindset is. So where his mindset was back when he fought me compared to where his mindset is now is a lot different. Because once you take a couple losses, once you realize that you are faultable, you can be exposed. You're not as good as you thought you were, or at least you think. Bad things can happen. But what are you going to do with the information that you've been given? Are you going to believe all the media? Are you going to believe all the naysayers, all the doubters, all the people that said, "Oh, I knew he wasn't that good"? Or are you going to choose to continue to believe in yourself? And for him, for his sake, for his wife, I know he's got another child on the way, or maybe he had one. Man, I wish him the best. I hope he continues to do well, and who knows? Maybe we'll cross paths in the future.
Do you not see him? Are you down in Florida right now?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't see him bounce around, accidentally going to the same grocery store, hitting up the same, because you guys are real close together. It's not like you're very far apart.
We are. I've thought about that. I'm like, what would I do if I saw him in public? It would be absolutely awkward.
That was. I got to be honest with you.
I haven't seen him in years.
The Matt Hughes. The first time I saw Matt in public, just kind of randomly, was when Robbie Lawler was fighting for Strikeforce, and I went to Robbie. I was like, he had a great fight. I was like, oh my gosh, Robbie, I got to tell you, congratulations. And Matt was standing right there. I'm like, oh, hi, Matt. How you doing? Because I was already engaged with Robbie, I couldn't do the whole and leave. So I had to talk to him, and that kind of quelled everything that we had. Like, there was that was it. That was the end of everything, because we were like, hey, I congratulated his teammate, and then had to say hi to him, and that was the end of it. And after that, and every time I see him, it's always, hi, how you doing? And so you get over that stuff once the rivalry is done. Once it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Or in our case, we're both still young in the sport, still in our prime. I mean, I'm going to fight for 5-6 years. I mean, the chances of the cross promoting or coming back or changing promotions or being in the same promotion again, that kind of stuff could happen in the future. Who knows? So there's still that weird, like, hey, I still might fight you someday. But there's also kind of that, like, the rivalries you had in high school, and then you see them later on, and then you're like, oh, that was weird. We were young. We were kids. I look at myself back when I fought him as a kid. I was still a kid.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, spiritually, compared to where I am now. And at the end of the day, I still have respect for him. Not as much as I do most fighters, but I have a lot of respect for him, and I think I wish him the best. And if I ever fought him, I have confidence in myself that I would beat him. But I just it will, exactly like what you said. It's not the actual interaction of seeing him. It would be the caught off guardness of the situation. Like, awkward. Okay, look at him, not look at him, say hi, cuss at him, flick him off. Like, what do I do?
Throw a grapefruit at him, do something.
Like, what do I do? Like, I'm at Whole Foods. Okay, avocado or cantaloupe? Throw cantaloupe. Like, what do you do? Like, or do you, like, just be cordial? Like, we don't have bad blood, or we never squashed any bad blood. Who knows?
It's tough because there's you get in a situation where it's a business, like you said, you got to use your mouth, but it's also, there's a portion of it where you're like, I still want to be respectful. There's no cameras on us right now at the grocery store. Do I need to turn myself on? Well, like a guy like Chael, he'll turn himself on right there in front of everybody. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he'll and it's a shtick for him. It's not his real personality. It's just a shtick. Like, he doesn't really believe that he's undefeated, even though he says he's undefeated. He really doesn't believe that he can that Tito quit or Tito tapped and that he let go because Tito tapped. Like, he doesn't believe that stuff, but he sells the fight. That's what he does. But he'll turn it on in the grocery store. He'll turn it on, in the middle of a movie theater. If you approach him in a movie theater, he'll turn it right on. He's Chael Sonnen, the guy you hear on his You're Welcome, his podcast. And it's crazy that he's able to do that all the time. For me, that was so stressful. I just want to leave the house. I just stay home. Like, I don't want to turn it on. I don't want to be that guy that everyone's looking at those interviews. I don't want to be that guy right now. I just want to sit in my room and be left alone for a little while. And then when you get out and you have to do it again, you're like, okay, hold on. Give me 45 seconds. I got to get in that mode. It's like a weird spot for me. So
yeah, I know it is awkward because people. I mean, and the funny thing too is that's one of the biggest questions I have all the time. I was just actually a couple days ago. I was at CMT headquarters. We were doing some promoting for the fight, and I met a bunch of the big wigs there at CMT. And two people asked me the question, like, so are you friends with these people you fight? Do you, like, have interactions? Like, and they don't. I mean, if you tell them that, like, you and me are about to fight, but like 3 weeks earlier, you and me have to go in front of the camera face to face and, like, stare at each other,
Mm-hmm.
and try not to be awkward and try not to act like this is awkward. It's crazy.
Yeah.
This isn't like business, like my business versus your business, or my ice cream truck versus your ice cream truck. This is me stepping into a cage and I'm going to punch you with these fists.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's one of the biggest questions I get. Like, so are you friends with these people? Do you talk to these people? And I'm like, no, I'm not really
I
friends with
tell them, I say, look, it's a business. I tell them it's
Yeah.
a business. And so at the end of the day, I got to sell my wares more than he sells his wares. And whether I like him or not, I got to sell it. But what I try to do is the loser has to buy the beer at the end of the fight. Whoever lost has to buy the beer for the other guy. And we just settle it that way. But, you can't have, the NFL playoffs are going off right now. You can't have a huge rivalry with like the Rams and the Falcons. And you can't go to that game and be like, oh yeah, let's just see a great game and see what happens. You got to cheer for somebody. You got to make them want to be on one side of the fence or the other, and you got to, you got to show a little animosity. Yep. So that brings me into Goiti Yamauchi, your opponent. Have you done anything at all as far as like how has the hype machine been for you for this fight? Because it seems like there's hype behind the fight, but it's not really you two talking. It's Bellator putting it out, not as much as you going, oh, F this guy, him going, yeah, F that guy, and blah blah, and going back and forth between each other. Like there's no battle. It's just kind of like let Bellator and Viacom handle the whole thing. Is that actually what's going on?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's first of all, there's a language barrier. I mean, there's a language barrier, and you can't find anything on the guy talking trash about me or about anybody. I think he's a guy who keeps his nose to the grindstone. He comes from that Japanese, Brazilian, respectful, martial arts type of background. So, I mean, what am I going to do? Like start making fun of him, and then I look like the a-hole because I'm like making fun of the nice quiet guy. It's like
and in today's, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in today's society, the way that the world is looking at it, especially the way that America is politicized right now, with on one side of the fence or the other, do you have to watch your verbiage because of that somebody might twist it into whether it's the liberal side or the conservative side, like someone's going to grab it and like, oh, it's racist. Oh, you're an Asianophile. Like you don't start doing all this stuff too. Do you have to worry about that stuff?
I have been worried about it. I mean, just because there's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we know, and now in 2018, everybody wants to be politically correct. Or if you accidentally say something that you didn't, or even if you say something that you meant, someone can twist it and turn it into something that's racist. Or it's one of those things where I'm not that worried about it. But unfortunately, we have to sometimes have to put ourselves in a box because we're afraid of what we might say, because a word spoken cannot be caught with the swiftest horse, like Socrates or Plato or someone said. Again, it's true. Once it's said, it's already said, and it can't be taken back. And it can be apologized for, but it can't be taken back. But I mean, at the end of the day, if he wants to make fun of, if he were to make fun of me for being a white American, or I was gonna make fun of him because he's Japanese, Brazilian, or this, that, and the other thing. Really, at the end of the day, we still have respect for each other.
Yeah.
Who cares? But yes, it really is. It's Bellator selling the fight. And of course, Bellator posts things like, Goiti Yamauchi, 18 wins by submission, the greatest submission person of all time. Michael Chandler's never been submitted, blah, blah, blah. They have to promote. That's their job. So when I've done a better job these days of compartmentalizing it and saying, well, they have their job. Their job is to promote. And at the end of the day, if it brings more eyeballs, it brings more eyeballs, even if they are possibly shining light on something that is so far-fetched that sounds crazy that he's not going to submit me. He's not going to beat me. He's not even going to come close. Now, have I prepared like he's going to? Have I prepared like he's the greatest grappler of all time? Have I prepared like he's the toughest SOB I'm ever going to fight? Absolutely. But in my mind, I know I'm going to smash him. So that's the way I always am.
And so if you're in his training camp and you're like, we got to get ready for Michael Chandler, and we know that you got a great submission style. This guy's never been submitted. He's an incredible wrestler. He's powerful. As long as he's not injured and doesn't have any cuts and he's not hurt, then he's going to be able to, he's going to put it on you a little bit. How do you tell him to train for you?
I've been trying to figure that out for years. I mean, honestly, the only way is to run and hope that you don't get crushed. I mean, really, you look at the way Eddie Alvarez fought me the first time and the way he fought me the second time, there's a difference. He ran. Will Brooks, same thing. He ran, I mean, I bring a tenacity and a pace, and I come forward with a gas tank full of freaking rocket fuel, ready to come forward, bite down on my mouthpiece and fight. And a lot of these guys can't hang. which is a great thing, which is cool. This is a 3-round fight. My gosh, Frank, I've
Yeah.
fought. This is going to be my 21st fight, and I've had only 5 fights in my entire career where I've trained for a 3-round fight. 15 minutes, I could fight.
Yeah.
I
That's
could
nothing.
fight. Yeah, it's nothing compared to training for a 25-minute fight or fighting 25 minutes. So, I'm going to keep my foot on the gas,
Mhm.
and I don't know how you prepare for me. Obviously, honestly, you pray to whatever God it is that you believe in, that I falter or I'm having a bad night or I'm off, because when I'm on, I'm unbeatable, and that's really the way that I feel.
Do you think that he's going to be able to do that though? I mean, for watching it, because I know you're a tape watcher. You've
Yeah.
seen a lot of his film. Like he doesn't. Is he going to be able to pull that off? Like, do you think in his style, the way he's been fighting his last 3 or 4 fights, will he be able to make that change?
Like running away?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody has a style
Mhm.
until it gets changed. Like if he wants to come forward, it's only going to take 1 or 2
Yeah.
punches for him to realize that I have a speed advantage, a power advantage, an accuracy advantage, a technique advantage, and he has seen me knock out all my knockouts. He's seen me drop every single person I've stepped into the cage with. He's seen me knock people out cold. He knows that these hands will put him out, so he has to be careful. And he knows he's undersized and he's smaller than I am. And Bubba Jenkins threw him around like a rag doll and beat him up on top, and he didn't submit Bubba Jenkins. So he's got those seeds of doubt in his head. He knows I'm a better MMA wrestler than Bubba Jenkins. He knows I'm way bigger, way more physical, way more deadly than Bubba Jenkins is. So we'll see. I mean, I hope he comes forward. Honestly, the easiest fights for me are the ones where people actually fight me,
Yeah.
And you get into a firefight with me, I'm going to last longer. I got a tougher chin, and I hit 10 times harder than he does. So that's what I'm hoping for, and we'll see. Time will tell.
Man, Mike, thanks so much for coming on here. I appreciate it. It was great. Have fun down in Florida. I'll see you. I'll actually be reffing that night on the undercard, so I'll be there that night. So I'll say hi in the locker rooms before the fights get started.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it.
You got it, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.